Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, you don't quite belong? Like you see the world differently, sense things more deeply, and feel disconnected from what others seem to accept so easily? If so, it's not random. It's a sign. There are those who are set apart, marked by something unseen. Throughout history, they have walked among us, misunderstood, rejected, and tested. Not everyone can recognize them, but there are hidden marks that separate the chosen from the rest. Marks that reveal who you truly are. But here's the question, do you have them? Because if you do, nothing in your life has been an accident. And once you recognize these signs, everything changes. Stay with me until the end, because today you're about to see yourself in a way you never have before. I'd like to ask you to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Some people go through life feeling like there's something different about them, something they can't quite explain. They don't fit in with the crowd. They see things others ignore. They feel things more deeply than most. And no matter how hard they try to be normal, something inside them refuses to conform. If you've ever felt this way, it's not a coincidence. There are those who are set apart, marked by something greater, chosen for a purpose beyond what this world understands. But here's the mystery. These marks are not physical. They cannot be seen with human eyes. Yet, they are undeniable to those who carry them. Throughout history, God has placed His seal on certain people, not with visible signs, but with spiritual ones. A transformed heart, a hunger for truth, a perseverance that defies all odds. But not everyone recognizes these marks within themselves. Some go their whole lives never understanding why they feel different, why they are rejected, why they walk a path that others cannot follow. The question is, do you have these marks? Because not everyone who claims to follow God is truly chosen. There is a difference between those who believe and those who have been sealed. And in the end, there are only two kinds of people, those who bear these marks and those who do not. At first, it's not obvious. Life feels the same, the world looks the same. But something inside you starts to shift. Conversations that once felt comfortable now seem empty. The places that once brought you joy start to feel foreign. You begin to notice things others overlook. Patterns in people, unspoken truths, the reality beneath the surface. And then the isolation begins. The world does not welcome those who are different. It resists them. It tests them. It pushes them to the very edge, trying to force them back into place. Because those who are marked cannot hide from it. They cannot escape it. It follows them wherever they go. It is in their thoughts, their emotions, their very being. And the more they resist, the heavier the weight becomes. Some will deny it for years, trying to live as others do, trying to convince themselves that they are just imagining things. But deep down, they know. They have always known. It's in the way they feel too much, the way they sense things before they happen, the way they are drawn to something beyond this world, while others seem content with the distractions of life. This is why the world does not understand the chosen. It fears them. It mocks them. It isolates them, hoping they will doubt themselves enough to fall back in line. But those who are truly marked will never be able to return to who they once were. The moment they stop fighting it, the moment they embrace what they were always meant to become, the transformation begins. And when that happens, there is no turning back. Because this mark is not just a burden, is not just a challenge. It is a calling that demands everything. At first, it feels like a curse. The weight of it, the isolation, the misunderstandings, it can break a person. And many do break. They give up. They try to erase what makes them different. They try to be like everyone else, just to feel accepted, just to belong. But those who are truly chosen, they will never belong to this world. No matter how much they try to blend in, they will always stand out. No matter how much they try to silence themselves, their very existence speaks louder than words. And this is where the real test begins. Because once a chosen one recognizes their difference, once they stop fighting it and start embracing it, the world responds. It tries to pull them back. Old connections resurface, tempting them with the familiarity of their past life. Doubts creep in, whispering that maybe they imagine it all. And yet, something deeper inside them knows the truth. There's no going back. The moment they awaken to who they truly are, everything changes. Some will try to run from it. They will convince themselves they can still live as others do, ignoring the signs, suppressing the pull towards something greater. But the more they resist, the harder life becomes. The things they once enjoyed feel meaningless. The people they once related to seem distant. The conversations that once entertained them now feel hollow. It's as if the universe itself refuses to let them settle for less than what they were created for. And then something happens. A moment of realization, an undeniable shift. They stop running. They stop doubting. They surrender to what has been calling them all along. And in that moment, everything they feared, every loss, every rejection, every trial begins to make sense. Because this difference, this mark they tried to deny, was never a burden. It was always a sign of something greater. But here's the real question: if you carry this mark, if you felt its weight, if you've seen its effects in your life, what does it truly mean? And if you were chosen, what exactly were you chosen for? You may not have the answer yet, but something inside you already knows. And once you begin to understand, you'll never see the world the same way again. Because those who are marked do not live ordinary lives. They are set apart, tested, and refined until they become exactly what they were meant to be. And this process is not easy. It requires losing parts of yourself that no longer serve you. It forces you to let go of people who were never meant to walk with you. It demands that you step into a version of yourself that is unfamiliar but destined. And in doing so, you realize something powerful: this mark, this weight, this difference was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you into someone the world is not ready for. Someone unstoppable. Someone unshakable. And the only question that remains is, are you ready to embrace what has always been inside you? Because once you do, everything changes. Before continuing with our spiritual evolution, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. A true transformation does not come from words alone. The first mark of the chosen is a heart that can never be the same. Once this transformation happens, there is no going back. It does not come from empty promises or shallow commitments. It is something that happens deep inside, a shift that cannot be undone. And for those who are chosen, this transformation is not optional. It is inevitable. Once it begins, there is no turning back. A chosen one cannot go back to who they were before. Something inside them has changed permanently. At first, it is unsettling. The things that once made sense no longer do. The desires that once ruled them begin to fade. The life they once imagined for themselves starts to feel foreign. And the strangest part? They did not choose this change. It chose them. While others remain comfortable in the illusions of the world, the chosen one sees through them. They can no longer pretend. They can no longer live as they once did. And that is when the separation begins. Many claim to follow truth, but their hearts remain the same. They chase the same things: wealth, validation, comfort. But the chosen ones, they crave something deeper. They seek something that cannot be bought or measured. And because of this, they start to notice something. People around them begin to change. Some distance themselves, confused by the shift. Others become hostile, sensing that something is different. And the most painful part? The ones they once trusted, the ones they thought would walk with them forever, suddenly feel like strangers. This is the first and most undeniable mark. A heart that can never be the same. It cannot be hidden. It cannot be ignored. And it comes with a price. Because when a heart is truly transformed, the world no longer sees you the same way. The invitations stop coming. The conversations feel forced. The places you once belonged to now feel unfamiliar. And while the rest of the world continues in its routine, you find yourself standing at a distance, watching, knowing you can never go back. And this is where the real test begins. Because for the first time, you see the truth, not just about yourself, but about the world around you. The distractions, the illusions, the things that once held you captive, they no longer have power over you. And that is terrifying. Not just for you, but for those who built their lives around those illusions. They sense it. They feel it. And their reaction is almost always the same: rejection, resistance. The chosen one is no longer one of them, and that makes people uncomfortable. But here is the truth that most do not understand. The rejection is not a punishment. It is a sign, a confirmation that you are stepping into something greater. The discomfort, the loneliness, the feeling of being set apart is not meant to break you. It is meant to shape you. Because the moment you stop seeking approval, the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop trying to fit in, that is when your true journey begins. And that is when the world starts to push back. Because those who crave truth are a threat to those who live in deception. And once you stop living in the illusions of the world will do everything in its power to pull you back. The people who once celebrated you will begin to question you. The things that once came easily will suddenly become difficult. The very life you were comfortable in will start to crumble. And you will ask yourself, why? Why does everything feel like a test? Why does it seem like every step forward brings more resistance? But this is where most get it wrong. This is not loss. This is refinement. A shedding of everything that is no longer meant for you. Because before a chosen one can step into who they truly are, they must let go of who they thought they had to be. And for those who cannot endure this process, for those who try to hold onto both worlds, the weight becomes unbearable. But for those who surrender, for those who trust, something incredible happens. The fear fades, the doubts disappear, and for the first time, they feel something they have never felt before: freedom. But this is just the beginning. Because once a chosen one fully embraces this transformation, once they stop fighting what was always meant to happen, the world responds. And those who once rejected them, those who once doubted them, they begin to see. But by then, it is too late. Because the chosen one has already stepped into something far greater. And nothing will ever be the same again. Because transformation is not about being accepted. It is about becoming. The moment you stop seeking approval, the moment you embrace the fire instead of running from it, the world has no power over you. Those who once doubted you will no longer recognize you. Those who once mocked you will watch in silence, confused, unable to understand what has changed. But you will understand. Because everything that was taken, everything that was lost, everything that was stripped away, it was never meant to harm you. It was meant to prepare you. And as you look back at the journey, at the moments you thought you wouldn't survive, you begin to realize that none of it was random. None of it was meaningless. Every rejection, every moment of solitude, every tear shed in silence, it was all part of the preparation. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. And now, as you stand on the edge of something new, something unknown, there's only one question left. Are you ready to step forward into what was always meant for you? Most people claim to want the truth. But when the truth challenges their comfort, they reject it. They prefer illusions, easy answers, the comfort of what they have always known. A chosen one, however, does not have that luxury. The second mark, the burden of truth, is not just about seeking knowledge, but about the willingness to carry the weight of it, no matter the cost. This mark separates the chosen from the rest, because once you see, you can never unsee. Once you know, you can never unknow. There's no going back. And this changes everything. At first, it feels like clarity. The world that once seemed confusing now makes sense. The patterns, the deceptions, the hidden motives of people, all of it is suddenly visible. The distractions that once entertained you now seem hollow. The conversations that once filled your days now feel empty. And just when you think you have found something precious, something that should be shared, you realize something even more painful. Most people do not want the truth. They want the illusion. This is where the separation deepens. It is not enough that a chosen one has a transformed heart. Now, they must carry the responsibility of knowing things that most will never accept. They try at first. They try to explain, to warn, to guide. But again and again, they meet resistance. People do not want their illusions destroyed. They do not want to be awakened. And for this, the chosen ones are often met with anger, ridicule, and rejection. The second mark, the burden of truth, is what makes a chosen one truly different. It is the understanding that once you have seen through the veil, you cannot go back. You cannot pretend. You cannot unknow. And this is where the price is paid. The friendships that once felt strong begin to fracture. The relationships that once seemed unshakable start to fade. The more you try to bring the truth to others, the more they pull away. Some call you extreme. Some say you have changed too much. Others dismiss you entirely, refusing to engage. And it is here that many struggle. They begin to wonder, should they stay silent? Should they pretend? Should they go back to who they once were, just to feel connected again? But a chosen one cannot unsee. They cannot unknow. They cannot live a lie, even if it means walking alone. And so the isolation grows. They watch as those around them choose comfort over truth. They watch as people cling to their false realities, even as those realities begin to crumble. They see the warning signs, the inevitable consequences, the cracks forming in the illusions people so desperately protect. And still they are ignored. This is where many break. They reach a moment where they question everything. They ask themselves, why was I given this truth if no one wants to hear it? Why do I see what others refuse to acknowledge? Why must I carry this alone? The burden of truth is heavy. It isolates. It separates. And for those who are not prepared for the cost, it becomes too much. Some try to go back. They try to forget. They try to blend in once more. But something inside them has changed. They can no longer pretend. For those who endure, something deeper begins to take root. The pain of rejection is replaced by something else, an unshakable certainty. They no longer seek agreement. They no longer try to convince. They no longer need validation. The truth, once a burden, becomes their foundation. They realize that their purpose was never to be understood. It was never to be accepted. It was to see, to know, to walk a path that few have the courage to take. And then something shifts. The world that once seemed hostile now feels predictable. The resistance that once hurt now confirms their path. They stop asking why they were set apart and begin to understand that the very thing that caused their suffering is also what makes them unbreakable. And just when they think they have lost everything, they discover something they never expected. A strength that cannot be shaken, a clarity that cannot be taken, and the realization that they are exactly where they were meant to be. But this is where the second mark truly reveals itself. Because it is not just about seeing the truth, it is about standing in it no matter the cost. It is about walking forward even when the path is lonely. It is about embracing the discomfort, knowing that those who fear the truth will always try to silence those who carry it. And this is the moment that defines a chosen one, not just in what they know, but in how they choose to live despite it. Because the ones who truly embrace this mark, they do not waver. And then something happens. The people who once ignored them start to notice. The ones who once dismissed them begin to listen. The same world that rejected them starts to feel their absence. But by the time they realize what they have lost, the chosen one has already moved on. They no longer need to explain. They no longer seek to be understood. They simply walk forward, unshaken, unstoppable, leaving behind everything and everyone that was never meant to follow them. Because the burden of truth separates. It divides. And those who refuse to face it will always resist those who carry it. But for the chosen one, there is no other path. No way to unsee, unknow, undo what has already begun. They do not live for approval. They do not fear rejection. They do not bow to deception. They stand. They walk. They move forward, knowing that the weight of the truth is heavy, but for those who bear this mark, is the only thing worth carrying. Some marks are visible only through struggle. While the first mark transforms the heart, and the second mark forces one to carry the burden of truth, the third and fourth marks come through something even harder: fire and separation. These marks define a chosen one's journey. They are not just tested, they are purified. They do not simply lose things, they are stripped of everything that no longer serves them. The third mark, the trial of fire, is what forges them. The fourth mark, the burden of separation, is what sets them apart forever. Fire is not gentle. It does not ask permission. It does not care about what you wish to hold on to. It burns away everything that is not meant to stay. And when a chosen one steps into the fire, they quickly realize that nothing will ever be the same again. The things they once depended on are removed. The people they once trusted walk away. The stability they once had disappears. It feels like destruction, but it is actually purification. Because fire only destroys what is weak, what is false, what no longer serves a purpose. At first, they fight it. They try to hold on to what is being taken. They beg for things to return to how they once were. But fire does not compromise. It does not leave anything untouched. It does not care about comfort. It forces a transformation that cannot be undone. And when everything has been burned away, when there is nothing left but the raw essence of who they are, the chosen one must face a truth that most will never dare to confront. They were never meant to stay the same. They were never meant to carry what they have now lost. And then, when the fire has taken everything, the fourth mark appears, the burden of separation. Because after the fire, after everything has been burned away, the chosen one finds themselves standing alone. They no longer fit into the spaces they once did. The friendships they had do not feel the same. The places they used to go now seem foreign. It is not just that the world has changed, it is that they have changed. And there is no going back. Most people fear separation. They do everything in their power to hold on to connections, to maintain familiarity, to keep things as they were. But a chosen one, they cannot stay where they do not belong. And so one by one the ties are cut, the attachments are broken. And while the world sees it as loss, the chosen one begins to understand it was never about loss. It was about making space for something greater. Because once the separation is complete, once everything unnecessary has been removed, something new begins to form in its place. At first, they grieve what was taken. They long for the people who walked away, for the life that no longer exists. But then something shifts. They stop longing for what was lost and start seeing what was gained. They realize that everything that left was meant to go, that the ones who walked away were never meant to stay. that the path they are on cannot be walked by just anyone. And for the first time, they feel something unexpected: freedom. But here is where most fail. They resist the fire. They refuse the separation. They cling to the old, terrified of what will happen if they let go. And because of this, they never fully step into their power. They remain stuck between two worlds, unable to return to what they were, but too afraid to become what they are meant to be. A chosen one cannot afford this hesitation. They cannot afford to hold on to what was never meant for them, because the fire does not wait, and the separation will happen whether they are ready or not. And so the ones who embrace it, the ones who allow themselves to be stripped of everything false, become something else entirely. They are no longer who they once were. They no longer seek what they once desired. They no longer belong to the life they once lived. They step forward, carrying only what is essential, untouched by the things that once held them down. And as they move forward, those who tried to break them, those who thought they would fall apart, those who assumed they would never survive, begin to see the truth. Because the third and fourth marks are the final barriers between who a chosen one was and who they are meant to be. If they resist, they remain trapped in suffering, stuck between two identities, unable to fully embrace their purpose. But if they surrender to the fire, if they accept the separation, they step into something greater than they ever imagined. And when that happens, the ones who once doubted them, the ones who once mocked them, the ones who once believed they were weak, will stand in silence, watching as the chosen one rises into something they never expected. Strength is often misunderstood. People assume it comes from power, from status, from control. But a chosen one's strength is not visible to the world. It is not loud, it is not forceful, it does not seek recognition. The fifth and sixth marks, the strength that no one sees and the resilience that cannot be broken, are what truly set them apart. These marks are hidden, but they define everything. At first, the strength of a chosen one does not even seem like strength. It looks like patience. It looks like stillness. It looks like endurance. While others react, they remain calm. While others seek revenge, they choose wisdom. While others collapse under pressure, they stand firm. And people misinterpret this. They assume it is weakness. They assume it is hesitation. But in reality, it is something far greater. It is control, not of others, but of themselves. This is the fifth mark, the power of restraint. Most people are controlled by their emotions, by their anger, by their fear. But a chosen one, they do not act from impulse. They do not allow the world to dictate their reactions. They move with precision, with patience, with understanding that few possess. This does not mean they do not feel. They feel everything, but they do not let those emotions control them. They do not allow the chaos of the world to shake them. They hold steady no matter what comes. And because of this, they confuse people. Those who expect them to react in anger are met with silence. Those who expect them to collapse are met with unshakable stability. And in this, their true power is revealed. The world only understands external strength, the strength of domination, of control, of force. But the chosen one carries an internal strength, one that cannot be measured, one that cannot be taken. And this is what makes them unstoppable. But then comes the sixth mark, the resilience that cannot be broken. Because strength is not just about standing firm. It is about rising again and again, no matter how many times they are knocked down. The chosen one has faced losses. They have been betrayed, abandoned, tested beyond reason. And yet they are still here, still standing, still moving forward. And this is what terrifies those who seek to break them. No matter what happens, they do not stay down. They do not remain defeated. They rise, stronger, sharper, more certain than before. Most people fear pain. They avoid struggle. They seek comfort, ease, security. But a chosen one, they do not just endure pain. They transform it. They take everything that was meant to destroy them and use it to fuel their growth. The betrayals, the heartbreaks, the losses, all of it becomes their foundation. And because of this, they become untouchable. Not because they have never suffered, but because suffering has made them stronger than anything the world can throw at them. And this is what people do not understand. They see the chosen one standing, unshaken, and they assume they have never fallen. They assume they have never been tested. But they do not see the moments in silence, the battles fought alone, the wounds that no one will ever know about. They do not see the times they wanted to give up, but didn't. They do not see the nights spent in quiet struggle, the moments where they stood at the edge of breaking but chose to keep going. This is the sixth mark, the spirit that refuses to break. It is what separates the truly chosen from those who only claim to be. Because many say they are strong, but when the test comes, they fall. Many claim they can endure, but when the fire arrives, they crumble. But a chosen one, they do not just survive. They transcend. They do not just endure. They transform. And in doing so, they become something that no force in this world can stop. And so, as they walk through life, they carry something unseen. A power that does not need to be displayed. A resilience that does not need to be proven. A strength that does not need validation. They do not seek revenge. They do not chase approval. They do not break. And those who once underestimated them, those who once tried to destroy them, those who believed they could be controlled, are left watching in silence, realizing too late that the chosen one was never truly defeated. They were only becoming. Because the world does not know how to handle those who cannot be controlled. It does not understand those who do not react. It fears those who do not bow to circumstances. And a chosen one, carrying the marks of strength and resilience, does not bend. They do not need to fight the same battles as before because they have already won the war within themselves. The moment they mastered their emotions, the moment they refused to break, they became something untouchable. And the ones who thought they had power over them, they now stand in silent recognition of the truth. And as time passes, something even greater begins to unfold. Those who once doubted them now stand in silent awe. The ones who believed they could manipulate them realize their mistake. Because nothing shakes a chosen one who has embraced these marks. They do not waste energy proving themselves. They do not fight battles that no longer matter. They move forward, steady, unstoppable. And as they rise, the world watches, unable to understand, unable to touch them, unable to do anything except witness what was inevitable all along. Because the strongest ones are not those who never fell. They are the ones who fell, shattered, lost everything, and still chose to rise. And once a chosen one embraces the truth of these marks, there is only one question left. What will they do with the power that was always inside them? Many people claim to be chosen. Many believe they are walking in divine purpose. But there is only one mark that separates those who truly belong from those who are simply pretending. This is the final mark, the seal that cannot be faked. It is not given to those who merely desire it. It is not granted to those who only claim it. It is a seal placed upon those who have walked through the fire, carried the burden of truth, endured the weight of separation, and emerged unshaken. This mark cannot be deceived, and it cannot be imitated. At first, it does not seem different. The chosen one does not walk with arrogance, does not seek to prove anything to the world. They do not need to. The seal is felt, not spoken. It is something that cannot be explained, only recognized. And those who encounter it react in two ways. Either they are drawn to it, sensing something beyond their understanding, or they resist it, repelled by what they cannot control. This mark changes everything. It shifts the atmosphere. It alters how people respond to them. It determines who can remain in their presence. And this is where the final separation occurs. Because the moment a chosen one receives this seal, the world no longer sees them the same way. The same people who once overlooked them now take notice. The same ones who doubted them now feel uneasy. Some are drawn closer, searching for understanding. Others turn away, realizing they can no longer stand in their presence. And this is the greatest test of all. Because now, they do not just walk as a chosen one. They are seen as one. And with this recognition comes responsibility. They no longer seek to explain, to convince, to prove themselves. They simply are. And the world adjusts around them. But this is also the most dangerous point. Because those who carry the seal are no longer hidden. They are no longer in the background. They stand as proof of what is possible, of what cannot be broken, of what cannot be defeated. And for this reason, they will always be challenged. Because there are those who cannot stand to see true power without attempting to destroy it. But here is the truth. This seal cannot be removed. It cannot be undone. It cannot be faked. Those who have it do not question it. They do not second-guess themselves. They do not waver in doubt. Because by the time they receive it, they have already lost everything that was never meant for them. They have already been refined, reshaped, redefined. They are no longer seeking a path. They are the path. And this is what the world was never prepared for. A chosen one who is fully awakened. One who does not need approval. One who does not ask for permission. One who does not lower their energy to be accepted. They move differently. They speak differently. They no longer chase. They no longer explain. They no longer wait for anyone to recognize them. because the moment they received this final mark, they became untouchable. The ones who tried to break them no longer recognize them. The ones who once doubted them can no longer deny them. The world that once sought to mold them now watches in silence, realizing that they were never meant to fit in. They were meant to lead. And this is where everything shifts. They are no longer trapped by the expectations of others. They do not move from fear. They do not operate from lack. They stand fully aware of who they are, fully conscious of their purpose, fully aware that nothing can stop them. This is what the final mark truly means. It is not just about endurance. It is not just about wisdom. It is not just about resilience. It is about identity. It is the full realization that they were never meant to follow, never meant to seek approval, never meant to ask for permission to be who they are. They do not need validation. They do not need recognition. They have already won the battle within themselves, and because of that, the external world holds no power over them. And so, as they walk forward, they do not carry the past. They do not seek revenge. They do not hold on to old pain. They step into something greater, something unshakable. And those who tried to stop them, those who once mocked them, those who believed they could break them, now stand in silence, realizing too late that they were never meant to be controlled. They were only becoming. Because this final mark, this seal that cannot be faked, is the proof of everything they have survived, is the proof that they were never meant to live an ordinary life. And those who carry it, they do not just survive. They do not just rise. They become something that the world cannot explain. They become exactly who they were always meant to be. And in the end, this is what truly sets them apart. Not the words they speak, not the battles they have won, but the presence they carry, the energy they radiate, the unshakable certainty that flows through them. Because those who have received this mark do not live for the approval of the world. They live for something greater. And once they realize this, once they accept it fully, they become unstoppable. And so, they move forward, never looking back. Not because they have forgotten, but because they have outgrown. Not because they have something to prove, but because they no longer need proof. They do not explain. They do not hesitate. They do not wait. They rise, leaving behind everything that was never meant to stay. And the world watches powerless as the ones they tried to break become untouchable. Now that you've seen the marks of the chosen, there's only one question left. Do you carry them? Because these signs aren't just random experiences. They are proof of something greater, a path that few will ever walk. But knowing isn't enough. Many are called, but few answer. The world will try to pull you back, to make you doubt. But a chosen one does not wait for permission, they step forward. So what will you do? Ignore it or embrace it? Because once you do, there is no turning back. Let me know in the comments, have you felt these marks in your life? If this video has changed your spiritual journey and helped you connect with your universal strength, subscribe to the channel, leave a like below, and activate the notification bell so we can notify you when new content arrives. We also suggest watching the video indicated on the screen so you can continue your journey of spiritual growth and inner evolution of knowledge. Thank you for staying with us until the end, and see you in the next video.